Good morning. Hi.
Good morning, everybody.
I don't have a gavel. I'm out of gavel.
I want to welcome everybody to today's Albany Pine Bush Preserve Commission Board meeting. My name is Keith Gertz. I'm the Regional Director of DEC's Region 4. I also serve as the Board Chair. To my left is Chris Haver, the Executive Director of the Albany Pine Bush Preserve Commission. And I'd like to go around the table and ask the other board members to introduce themselves. Starting with Mike.
All right.
All the time.
I was going to say, sorry. Mike McLaughlin, Albany County Executive's Office.
I'm Tony Wilkinson from the Nature Conservancy.
Harvey Alexander, citizen.
Steve Rice, citizen member.
Mike Lyons, Town of Colony.
Rick Jordan, note taker.
Datsé Pascana Gilliland.
John Brust, also citizen representative.
Larry Eckhouse is our counsel.
Okay, very good. Thank you and welcome. The first item of business is to introduce the minutes of last board meeting. Ask for a motion to introduce those minutes.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Are there any comments from the public? I will take that as no. Let's go. Okay. Move into reports. The only report item I have of note is that the DEC will be working together with the Pine Bush Commission on wildlife habitat restoration of 92 acres adjacent to Rensselaer Lake. This will involve timber harvesting of mostly black locust and larger oak trees. And this will reduce the tree density of the area and significantly open the area for increased sunlight. Are there any reports from any of the board members? No. I guess I'll open up to you, Chris.
Okay. I'm just going to turn your attention to the update. Probably should minimize how much I talk. Specifically, one thing I'd like to mention is the Social Butterfly Project that we were asked to partner with the Gildan Chamber, and it's an awareness vehicle and a modest fundraising vehicle to help promote awareness for Huntington's disease and the Carter blue butterfly. And there's two sponsorship levels at $200 and $500. And it's being marketed to businesses in the area. And without going into a whole lot of detail, I'd ask you to read that in the update, and I'm going to pass these around so you can take a look at them as well. And also in this room, you'll notice the photographs, the beautiful photographs that we have up. This is part of a juried photo exhibit. It's an exercise, I guess we call it an exercise, of or an activity that we did working with the public and two folks that served as the jurors, judges, to help choose the top three. This is a project that was spearheaded by Blake Etchison, hiding behind the camera, Jackie, Sarah, and Wendy Craney, who's usually behind the camera. So you can see the top three prizes are here, and up through January 2nd, there's going to be a People's Choice Award, right? January 2nd.
January 1st.
Thank you, January 1st. And you can vote for your favorite on the iPad over here. So I would encourage you to do so before you leave today, and pick. There's a lot of nice photos, and the interesting thing is the photographers range in age from 11 to 70. So there's a wide variety of interpretation. Moving into conservation science, typically at this time of year, I ask that Neil or Steve give a presentation on our work on Carners, but we have a lot on the agenda, so I asked if we could just stand up quickly and give a quick summary of where we are and some of the successes that we've seen this season. Neil?
Sure, glad to. And in particular, I want to thank Steve for his work with the statistics that tell us this year across the preserve we had another record-setting year as far as our carnival butterfly population goes. The endangered butterfly population nearly tripled from what it was last year, which was a record year. So with the June brood of butterflies, we had a little over 8,000 is our population estimate for the sites we sample in the preserve. The July brood was a little over 14,000 across the whole brood. Our goal is to maintain at least 3,000 in 4 out of 5 consecutive years in order to meet state and federal recovery guidelines. So we're 2 years into those first 4. But all indications are that our population is actually bigger than the numbers Steve came up with, because we're not sampling, 2 reasons. We're not sampling all of the sites where we have butterflies, and again this year we put about 1,000 butterflies into the preserve, into new sites, and those also are not counted in the numbers that we report in the update. So overall, the butterfly recovery efforts are going really well, and while that's great news for the butterfly, what we're finding is that it's also great news for pitch pine scrub oak barrens. Think of the Carner as a flagship species, and what we're finding again and again, and I'll report more on it at the next quarterly meeting, birds, moths, other insects, the Carner management is really pitch pine scrub oak barrens management, and it's benefiting a wide variety of what DEC considers wildlife species of greatest conservation need.
Great, thanks, Neil. Is there any questions for Neil specifically?
Just a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to recognize, I mean, it's just fantastic to hear that, and it's just, you know, it's the sort of thing that you realize is a culmination of so many efforts from the fire management, the education piece, and the conservation piece. And it's, you know, a few years ago it was, you know, it wasn't, you know, it was uncertain whether or not you could kind of make that, you know, change and curve up, and it's really great to see.
Thanks, Neil. I just want to jump back because I saw Robin come in, and I recognized Darwin both from the Friends group. Going back to the juried photo exhibit, that was sponsored by the Friends, and they provided gift certificates to the 3 winners, and will provide a gift certificate that they secured through donations to the People's Choice. So again, please vote. Fire management. I think all of you as board members got an email from me to let you know that for the first time we broke the threshold of burning 200 acres in 1 year, which has been a goal going all the way back into the early 90s. So with a combination of good weather, good environmental conditions, a good trained crew, and working hard, we finally met that threshold. And then finally, in stewardship, we've done a lot of things to improve visitor use and visitor experience in the preserve. We've created and finished 2 new bridges, thanks to Joel working with Jesse, and here's Jesse, thank you. Seasonal staff, we have 2 bridges that are completed, 2 of which go to a new trail that end up into DiCaprio Park, so it's a new access point that has never been there before in the town of Gilliland. And then we have a viewing platform out here, going up the back of Carter Barrens East for the vernal pond that was created with help from the Eagle Scout. So I want to recognize that. And with that, I think we can move on to technical.
Thank you.
We're props today. Pass them around. There's the quarterly report is coming around to each of you. The technical committee met several times this quarter, and for all intents and purposes, continued review of several projects that you've heard about before. So I wasn't going to go into any details on any of them in particular, but you can see the activity and a summary of each of those projects. I believe there's one in each of the 3 municipalities. But I did want to take a second to also highlight this, my Cure for Insomnia. This is the 2014 Habitat Restoration Compliance Report for the Albany landfill and the habitat restoration work that they did in 2014. And in summary, things are going very well around not only around the landfill and the habitat work that's been done, basically connecting Carner Barrens east to the Rensselaer Lake Preserve and Park section of the preserve has gone really, really well. Wetlands restoration as well as upland management. But also, if you remember, there were 4 acres of test plots that were established on the closed portion of the greater Albany landfill. And those within those 4 acres, they're evaluating various levels of sand depth to look at what is it going to take to successfully establish native plants on the closed landfill itself. And now, after 4 growing seasons, it's pretty clear that between 18 and 24 inches of sand on top of the conventional cap on the landfill is proving very successful. So successful, actually, that not only do they have a healthy population of lupin in those test plots, but also now a population of Carner blue butterflies and frosted elfin butterflies that moved into that site on their own from the nearby preserve. So it's good. Since we began this project, since we started working with the city, going all the way back to reviewing their initial applications, the commission has been a very strong voice in advocating for not only the restoration of the preserve, but the restoration of the landfill itself to turn that back into some sort of native pine barrens habitat that has value for wildlife, instead of what's typically done in a landfill, which is cap it with cold season turf grasses, long grasses for all intents and purposes. So the test plots are really indicating that we should be able, the city should be able to follow through on their permit obligations and restore the capped landfill to pitch pine scrub oak barrens, or at the very least, native prairie grasses and wildflowers capable of supporting some of the species we care a lot about. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions you might have. If you're interested in this, I do have a CD version, which is much lighter. Thank you.
Thanks. Going to move on to Discovery Center with Jeff.
Good morning, everyone. I can shorten my report a little bit because Chris covered some of the things about the photo exhibit and our partnership with the Guilderland Chamber, but the Discovery Center team went on a day of team building and peer visits to a number of other centers, which was really successful. I went to Sarah Lawrence College Center for the Urban River at Bezac, the New Canaan Nature Center, Earth Place, and we met with various staff from executive directors on down, and it was a mutually reciprocal, productive exchange on both parts. Numerous repairs, maintenance, and upgrades to the building and the exhibits were made. I'm just going to name a few. Security cameras, composting toilets, repairs to the HVAC system, additional energy efficient motion sensors, painting of the Carner classroom, which was kind of a production because we had to make sure the turtles were safe and move them to off-site. Line painting in the parking lot, completion of the building caulking, finally. It's been a 3-year project. Installation of more window tape to prevent bird strikes, removing and reinstalling the coin drop exhibit, a new turtle tank, which we're really excited about, and we're in discussions with local exhibit contractors for ongoing maintenance. We also hosted Pine Bush Neighborhood Association meetings here. I attended a climate change workshop at the FDR Library. The Governor's location scout for the Office of Motion Picture and TV Development. And he seemed pretty impressed with what he saw here. The Discovery Shop now carries our own set of 12 note cards depicting Pine Bush scenes with photos selected from the 60 submissions for this photo exhibit. So we're pretty excited about that. Regarding outreach, Chris covered that. In addition, Wendy has been working, Wendy's not here, a lot with the audience development plan, which you're going to hear more about in a moment. And we also participated in education help with this. And My Size Super Science Weekend, we have 20,000 programs, bag stuffers, flyers being distributed through LL Bean once again. The education program initiated this past year a new program called Habitat Watch, which has been piloted with Farnsworth Middle School, and it's been very successful, and I think it's a really exciting program. On Veterans Day, we honored men and women in uniform, past and present, by hosting 2 live local wildlife programs for the public, but mostly concentrating on veterans and their families. Environmental educator Jackie Citroniti attended the 2014 New York State Outdoor Education Association Conference. And Blake Etchison and Sarah Poggi, and Amanda Dillon too, all attended the National Association for Interpretation's National Workshop. And these are important opportunities for us to expand our knowledge base, connect with other professionals in the field, and share other great ideas that we're working on, and bring back more information. Any comments, questions?
Thank you, Jeff. So we're going to move on to the financial report with Lisa.
Good morning. Happy holidays, everyone. We'll begin the financial statements with our statement of financial activities. This represents our figures through October 31st, 2014, which is 7 months of our fiscal year. Beginning with revenue, our dues and contributions increased. They're higher than budget due to Friends Group donations, thank you, and Trustco donations. Government grants and contracts come in at 87% of budget, and this is DEC revenue, and this is a direct correlation to our expenses, which are conservative for the first half of the year. Mitigation fees are coming in higher than budget, and this is due to an increase in tonnage from the landfill. Lease revenue is slightly higher than budget due to rent from the Barron's house, and other revenue is 153% of budget due to increase both in merchandise sales and program revenue. Total revenue came in close to budget at 96% for the month of October. Moving on to expenses, personnel and fringe are under budget, and this is due to timing of large benefit payments. This is actually very close to budget at the close of November. Travel and training is 59% of budget. This is due to the timing of expenses for seminars and training, which we budget at the beginning of the year, and they occur throughout the year. Contractual is 70% of budget through October. This is again due to timing of budgeted expenses. We expensed $64,000 in November, which brought us very close to our budget, and this will fluctuate depending on the weather. Communications is under budget. This is due to the timing of advertising and event expenses, printing internally, which is our maps and our brochures, and this will catch up over time also. Occupancy is under budget in October, and this is due to the timing of repairs and maintenance, but also we will have a cost savings at the end of the year too, in electric gas and delivery. We will be under budget for the year in that. Supplies and equipment are under budget, specifically due to the purchase of computer equipment and software, and some projects that haven't begun yet in the preserve. Other expenses are slightly under budget, and this is just due to the timing of budgeted expenses, specifically marketing, promotion, and Discovery Center supplies. So total expenses came in at 75% of budget. Revenue came in at 96% of budget, giving us a higher net income of budget of $357,000. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving on to the statement of net assets through October. Cash and cash equivalents, our operating cash increased, and this is due to conservative spending at the beginning of the year, which happens annually every year. This will catch up over time. We also received 2 large payments in October for mitigation and Trustco donations. Conservation and land reserves remained the same. Grants receivable increased, and this is just due to money owed for expenses reimbursed by DEC. Accounts receivable is 0. Inventory remained the same. Prepaid expenses are 0 due to the timing of year-end expenditures. Investments increased $87,000 due to a positive performance in all 3 funds. Capital assets remained unchanged for the month of October, and total assets increased $448,000, slightly over last year, due to mainly an increase in cash and investments both. Liabilities, accounts payable and accrued expenses increased slightly. This is just due to the timing of payables owed. Deferred revenue remained the same, giving us a slight increase in liabilities. And moving on to net assets. Investment and capital assets remained the same for the month of October. Reserved assets remained unchanged. Unreserved assets increased $445,000. And this is due to a positive NOI of $357,000 and an increase in investment income of $87,000. Any questions on that? Okay, the final report in our packet is our investment summary, which was positive through the month of October. The reserve fund had a positive performance through October at 1.79% for the year, and both the Discovery Center endowment and endowment have a positive performance, coming in at 3.74 and 2.75% gain through October. Overall, investments had a positive performance with a gain of $87,402 through October. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, now we're going to move into the action items.
Yeah, and I'll go through it. So the first one in your packet, as you know, I think as we're getting used to now, the December board meeting, we consider both the annual plan and our budget for fiscal year that starts in April. We used to do that at the March quarterly meeting. We can't do that any longer because we have to have an approved budget, board-approved budget that we have to upload into the online system for public authorities reporting by January 1st. So that's why we do it early. So the annual plan is action item A. The annual plan is very similar to what you've seen in the past by category. It's modified every year. We work with the staff to go through it by department. Probably the big changes that you would see, or the additions or modifications, reflect specifically the work that we've done this year with our consultant who's sitting here at the end, Shelley Bischoff from Conservation Impact, as well as the organizational assessment that we did last year. So it incorporates what we call the vision strategy, our strategic planning, the audience development plan, and some of that into the document itself. Anybody want more detail on that? I'm happy to. It's very similar. This is a formal document that we submit to DEC as part of our contract for the EPF funding that we get.
I might have picked up a couple mistakes, but I might be wrong.
No, not necessarily.
On number 2, fire management.
Yep.
Number items 1 and 7 talk about what you're expected to do in 2014.
Yeah, that'd be 15. Thank you. Go ahead, Steve. Anything else?
Those are the only questions.
All right. Yeah, that should be 15.
What would you say the biggest change or addition is this year?
The biggest change or addition? The focus on the manager's team working to incorporate all the information that we got, working through with Shelley, the whole strategic planning, moving ahead, the audience development plan, and working together as a cohesive internal team to then help their staff and our staff move ahead.
I did have a question on one item. The conservation science, initiate social science investigation and public knowledge awareness.
Yep.
Is that something I'm not familiar with that?
Neil, you want to mention that?
Sure. Again, that falls out of the plan, the visioning strategy, and the audience development plan that Chris mentioned. But it's something we've never done. We've never investigated public knowledge, awareness, and attitudes about the preserve, the commission, what we do, who we are, let alone the potential effectiveness of our educational programs and what we have in the Discovery Center. So we don't really have a baseline to monitor change over time of people's knowledge, awareness, and attitudes. And as we've been working with Shelley, we've begun to realize the importance of being constituency focused and focused on folks around the preserve whose support we really need in the long term. So we're going to be working with Dr. Shorn Ulrich from Cornell University's Human Dimensions Research Unit, which is housed in their Natural Resources School, to basically work with a graduate student to do a survey within a 10-mile radius circle of the preserve to evaluate baseline knowledge, awareness, and attitudes regarding the preserve and everything we're doing. And that way, over time, we'll be able to track. Ideally, we do that again in 5 or 10 years and look at and hopefully see that our efforts in the preserve and in the Discovery Center and in educational programming is moving the bar and advancing people's knowledge.
Thanks, Neil. The only thing I would say to that, Steve, is this isn't really the first time we've done it. We've done surveys, the educational program has done surveys, the Discovery Center has done surveys, but they're more informal and they're hard to measure, they're hard to track. We did surveys with the public even before we opened the center. What were people looking for? This is something that's much more rigorous, working with Cornell, and again, measurable, which is one of the key things, as you know, chair of the Discovery Center Committee and deeply involved in the vision strategy that we had to come up with. Other questions on the annual plan? No?
Okay, can I ask for a motion to set the annual plan?
Second.
Discussion? Questions? All in favor? Any opposed?
Okay, thank you. Action item B is the operating budget for fiscal year 15-16, starting April 1st. This is based on a proposed appropriation of $2 million. So we put this together being conservative. I would hope that the proposed appropriation for the commission this year would reflect the appropriation from this current year of $2,125,000. But because we didn't get that in cash, I thought it would be better to be conservative. If we do get the 125 additional, we're ready and willing to spend it. So departments have recommendations of how we would spend that money. And just for a little quick background, the proposed appropriations in the Environmental Protection Fund will come out with the governor's budget, with the executive's budget, which is released. It'll probably be released the 21st. I think it's the day after Martin Luther King Day. It'll be that week. Is typically when it comes out, and it's near the start of the legislative session. So the budget this year the draft budget is in your packet. Only change in revenue this year is there's $20,000 in federal grants that's being provided by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to help with our coroner work, but also to expand doing work looking at bats in the preserve. Revenue otherwise is more or less the same. Expenses, a change in salaries and benefits. As we typically do in budgeting, we put 4% for current salaries in for step increases for those who are eligible, and 4% for either what they would call merit or COLA increases, both of which are usually approved by the governor and sometimes not. So we keep those in the budget, and if they're not approved, we obviously don't spend that money. Also, I've included a position. It's a grade 18. It may be lower than that. Certainly, it can't be higher than that. But I wanted to budget putting a position in there. And again, we're not sure what it's going to be. We have ideas, and it's something that the manager's team is going to come up with as we move forward into the fiscal year. I budgeted it starting May 1st. It may be later, but I want it as a placeholder. And if you go down the list and you're looking at the expenses, there's not much going up. Others have gone down. A lot of those reflect specifically our strategic plan, the recommendations in that, and the audience development plan. And the audit committee did look at this budget on Friday last week and did recommend it for board consideration. Any questions?
Can I have a motion to accept the operating budget?
I will.
Second. Discussion? Questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Action item C. This is a formality that authorizes signatory authority for our financial investments. As you know, KeyBank is our manages our financial investments for the commission, and with Keith Gertz now officially as chairman of the board, we have to have both he, John Brust as treasurer, and Lisa authorized to exercise authority under Keith. It's a signatory authority. And the only change is removing Gene Kelly as the former board chair and adding Keith.
I have a motion to accept the signatory authority?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Questions? All in favor? Any opposed?
You abstained.
I abstain.
You got that, Rick. Right? The chair abstained from that one. Okay. Thank you.
Now we're going to move into the special recognition.
Yes. So today we have two people here with us that I asked them to join us for special recognition. And I will try and be brief. The first is Carney's. So I'm going to say just a couple things that you get. So Karn and I first met in 1998 or 7.
You have a good memory.
I think in Long Island. Her first, coming out of Ranger School, she was first in Long Island. She was in Long Island for 3 years, right?
Close to 3.
Close to 3. So if people remember back to 1995, Long Island had very severe wildfires. You remember the Sunrise wildfire? Well, to encourage the public to think positively about prescribed burning, and that prescribed burning could be used, DEC worked hard at helping the public understand through outreach and communication, and they tapped me to come down and lead the first prescribed burn in Long Island after the wildfires. So that's where I met Karn. And we have a good humorous story about that. But
Yes, we do. We'll keep it to ourselves.
we'll keep it to ourselves. So everything went well. It was a 9-acre burn. We had, no kidding, caution tape up, and there were mothers with strollers and children to watch the burn. Of course it's safe, but would you bring your child? Whatever. So Karn worked here with us. Karn was the first ranger, this position was created, the first position created for an Albany Ranger. The Albany Ranger focused on Albany County, which includes the Pine Bush, and doing a lot of outreach in the Capital District. But Karn spent a lot of her time helping us through the last 14 years, specifically with all kinds of things from encroachments to trespass issues to inappropriate uses of the preserve and preserve trails, and writing tickets, but even more than writing tickets, giving people warning and trying to, before giving them a ticket, educating them. And she was a regular participant on prescribed burns. So Karn joined us at our holiday party last week and joined our silly game, so we had a good time. But I just want to say thanks, Karn.
I've had the privilege to have worked with the Albany Pine Bush staff for the last 14 years, and they have been the most dedicated, professional, hardworking, fair bunch of people I've ever worked with in my whole life. Honestly, I could say that. Together, we have solved many issues concerning the preserve, Albany Pine Bush Preserve, and especially the volumes of encroachment issues that have taken place in all the many years. And I want to give special thanks to Joel Heck for all the legwork he did in locating a lot of these encroachments, and together he and I would go and visit with the guilty parties, if you will. And most of the time we were able to solve it where they took care of the issue and I didn't have to issue any tickets, but then there were others where that was the only avenue I had, was to slam a ticket on them. But it's been a great career as a forest ranger, and in December I'll be a private citizen again. And sorry, instead of coming to the preserve and looking for what's not positive or right, I can come here and enjoy it as a citizen.
That's right.
And look at the beauty and all the changes in the right directions that have taken place here. But I will bring my cell phone, so if I see anything, I'll call the local ranger.
Yeah, you call the local ranger.
So thank you to all of you for giving me so many good memories to take away with me in my senior days.
Thanks, Karn. And next with us we have Gene Kelly. There's Gene, and I'm going to ask when we're done if the three of us could get up front. Lisa, do you have your camera?
Yeah.
Somebody have a camera? Can somebody take a photo of us when I'm done? Okay.
There we go.
All right. I had to go back and think hard over the last 7 years about all that we've done as a commission, as an organization, and it was actually pretty incredible. Gene started as the regional director at DEC in the summer of 2007, and Gene, you can correct me for anything I'm wrong on. His first board meeting here was in December of 2007, so it was 7 years ago this meeting, and I'm sure he had a Christmas tie. So thinking about back to December of 2007, in June we had just opened the inside of the center, the Discovery Center. The outside we were still working on. We were working on removing the parking lot, remember that? And all the exhibits that are outside, all the restoration work, all that was going on. And then we started to get into things like the transition away from the Nature Conservancy and becoming more independent. So that we began that process in 2008. And it's going back to the Nature Conservancy was our fiscal agent who provided the employees for us under contract. And over time, here's an organization that helped basically create the commission to what it is, and we grew too big. So it was time to move on and find a new home. So I worked with Gene, and Larry Eckhouse soon came on as our counsel. And the three of us worked together, and Gene was a great help in helping us to figure out where we were going to land. As you know, we created a transition committee, and we landed with a Natural Heritage Trust. And as soon as we did that, our attorney said, why don't you do this on your own? So then we started a process to move forward and figured out how do we become more independent and function as our own entity. So we moved then in 2011, January of 2011, to be the more independent organization that we are today. So we're basically like a self-sustaining business. We have our own board, we have our own budget, you approve the budget, you approve the actions. We do our own payroll, we do all of our benefits through the state. So a lot of administrative things happen thanks to both Gene and Larry, but specifically Gene being there to help me and guide me with a lot of this stuff. And along the way, we adopted the biggest and most comprehensive management plan that was overseen by Neil working with the technical committee, the 2010 management plan, which replaced the 2002 plan. We became a bird conservation area under state parks. We became an important bird area under Audubon. Most recently, we became a national natural landmark under the National Park Service. And then even last fall, we recognized the 25th anniversary of the Commission. So there's been an awful lot of things that have happened in the last 7 years. And to that, I just wanted to say thanks, Gene. With that, we have a book with photos. Karen already has hers. She got it at the holiday party. But we have photos. This is something that Wendy put together. And there's a card in here from Nancy Pearson because she couldn't be here today because she's on her way to Australia. It's great.
Okay.
Thanks, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Karen, can you come up? Good.
I got a snowflake out of
Get my good side now.
Ready? Smile.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll try to be brief. This is an awesome group, and it's the last 7 years have literally flown by for me. Enjoyed every minute on the job, and there were a lot of great things I got to be involved with as the regional director, and there were very few that I would say measure up to the amount of professional and personal pleasure that I got from being involved with the Pine Bush. Tremendous leadership, tremendous professionalism in the staff. You know, the reports that come in every quarter are just incredible. The upward trajectory that this commission and the preserve
are on is really a tribute to everybody in this room. And it was my pleasure, really, to have the opportunity to be associated with all of you. I do want to thank you because there were so many times that I would drive by the Pine Bush and feel special because I knew a little bit more about what was going on here than the average member of the public, and that was good. But it's good to hear also with Shelley and Chris's leadership here that the commission is aiming at making sure that the public's knowledge of what's going on here is enhanced, because there is no better advocate for the commission and the work that it's doing than the people who walk through the door and go out and enjoy the preserve, and then go out and tell their friends, and then their friends come visit, and it mushrooms from there. So thank you very much. It's been my pleasure to have the opportunity to be associated with all of you. I want to wish everyone a happy and Merry Christmas and great holiday season, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, now we have our presentation discussion topic. We have Shelley Bischoff, who is the principal from Conservation Impact. And our apologies, we had planned to send out the audience development plan as part of the electronic packet. And Margie and I were a little crazy last week. We got the packet out on Friday like we wanted to, but we missed a couple of things. So our apologies for that. She did make copies this morning, so they're at your place. We do have, I have nice bound versions, color versions. If you would like them, I have 4. If you want, if I need more, I can get those to you too. So the audience development plan is an outgrowth of the vision strategy that we did. If you recall, we created a subcommittee of the board. We called it the Discovery Center Committee. It probably should have a different name at this point, but the Discovery Center Committee was created with Steve Rice as the chair, and also including Harvey Alexander and Don Sapos, John Rust, serving on that committee. And we created the vision strategy because we knew, having the Discovery Center open for 7 years, we're doing good things, we're getting great public feedback, but what's next? We needed to know what the next step was and how do we continue to improve and grow. So from that, we recognized that we needed basically a marketing plan. We call it an audience development plan. But who is our audience? How do we reach them? What do they like? You know, what do they do? Where do they live? What do they want from the preserve? Obviously, we have a law that tells us what we have to do, but we are a public organization. We're a public preserve, and the preserve is the public's. So how do we best interact with our constituency? So this is basically the next level. The audience development plan is taking the commission to the next level. To basically the one thing that you heard from Karn and you heard from Jean about all these superlatives, all these great things that the commission has done and continues to do with staff on the ground in the Discovery Center. But how many people in the capital region or our area, remember the vision strategy looks at that 10-mile radius around the preserve, how many people really know how great the preserve is? We think it is, but what do other people know? So this is the step to move us into that direction.
Thanks. Thanks. Oh, okay. I'm not used to doing it in the dark.
You want light back on? You want the lights?
Yeah. I don't know. You guys see if it...
See if you can see.
You get enough contrast to see that?
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi. I'm going to stand here so I can do this. I'm going to try and get everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Chris, are we still on schedule? And I've got about 20, 30 minutes.
You're fine. We're ahead of schedule.
Good. Thanks. So I can't think of a better way to sort of launch a presentation of the audience development plan than hearing about what Jean had to say, and Karen, congratulations. And I wholeheartedly agree. It's been so wonderful to work with the staff and some of the committee members. So I appreciate what you said. It's really a very special experience. So I'm delighted to be here to meet the rest of the commission. I've had the great opportunity to work with a few of them, and they've been just really great and helpful. The purpose of the presentation today is to present the audience development plan to you and to discuss a little bit of the implications that it might have for the commission, particularly relative to how it informs your work or the role you play in the audience development plan. So I'd have you sort of listen with that sort of perspective, because we'll have a little bit of discussion afterwards in terms of what does this mean to the commission and how do you want to take it forward. I think I'll do a little bit of a preface, because we use the word marketing, we use the word audience, markets, constituents. I use them all the same. I'll tell you why I use the word constituency, not in a political sense, but in the sense of a constituent element is really necessary, integral to the whole, or necessary for your success. So I use the word constituents rather than markets or audience, but I use them interchangeably. But people are, I work all over the country with nonprofits and public agencies, and we call it audience development because still nonprofits and public agencies don't like the word marketing. But I think the best way to present marketing is nothing more than taking all of the great stuff that you do and getting other people to be as passionate about it as you are. That's what it is. So it's a very positive step moving forward, and that's what I'll present how we go about how the process and then the results of that. A little bit of background, as Chris said, it came from the Discovery Center Vision Strategy, and that's really the context for this whole sort of report and approach. When we did the analysis leading up to the Vision Strategy work, the analysis revealed that the Albany Pine Bush Preserve lacked a broad-based constituency. As I think of that a little bit more, I'm going to sort of take back my words. I think you have a constituency. They just don't know that they're the constituency, and you don't know that they're the constituency. But I think there is one. Excuse me. And that there was only a general definition of audience. So if I had asked the staff who the markets were, guess what the answer was going to be? Well, everybody. This is a great place and everybody knows about it. Everybody's the market. We're going to look at this a little bit more in terms of how do you really define that market so that we can reach out to them in a way that's most effective, and how can we then expend resources to be most powerful. The other piece that we found, as Chris, you were working on your operating plan, is we looked at the goals for the organization. Those goals and action steps really depended on knowing much more about who the audience was, so that we could make decisions about what was the right strategy. So if you don't know who your audience is, you don't have goals, anything you do is really good. You're at this point where you're now more sophisticated, you've done all these great internal pieces, now you're trying to go more external. So I'll remind us of what the vision strategy, the vision that came out of the vision strategy was, and it's really focused around being a little bit more outward focused than we have been in the past. The vision is that the core audiences are fully engaged in support of, they're participating in programs, they're enjoying the preserves, they're volunteers, and they're great ambassadors for the management practices we have here. We can measure our effect of our work through our actions of our supporters, and people are proud of living near a globally rare ecosystem, and partners and decision makers, and they're proud of the partners and decision makers, you all, who protect and fund it, and as a result we're able to protect and manage the preserve into the future. So the vision statement's really focused on other people know and support the work that we're doing. That's a good vision statement, don't you think? I like it. I like it. We actually had the staff do an exercise where we said, here's the preserve with the butterflies and the plants and animals, and here's the preserve with the butterflies and the plants and animals, and a lot of people knowing and caring about that. That doesn't mean that they're actually here on the preserve. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. This is not a plan, let me be really clear. This is not a plan to bring more people to the preserve all over the preserve. It will help increase awareness, it will help increase attention to the Discovery Center, but this is not about bringing more people here. That wasn't the goal. The vision strategy had 5 specific goals. Again, you can see how these relate to, we have to know who the audience is in order to successfully achieve our goals. Goals around making this an indispensable community asset. Goals around not just getting people aware, but really knowledgeable. That's in your charter. That we want people to be active and engaged friends and supporters of the organization. We want really strong partnerships in the community, and we want organizational strength. So the audience development plan is to help staff and the commission better understand the audience so that we can be more focused in our projects, priorities, and investments, and then define our target markets so that we can create strategies to better engage them. In other words, not just sort of to put information out there and whoever sees it is fine, but really use resources appropriately. We did the work from June to October. I did about 100 in-person interviews. Lots of you might help me a great deal. I told the staff I got out of being my shy person, and I actually walked all over the place and kept going up to people and asking them if they knew the Albany Pine Bush Preserve. I interrupted people while they were having coffee at Panera's. I interrupted people while they were hiking in different places. I talked to a lot of people. We did a lot of background research, and then we used the Esri Tapestry segmentation, which is a national database that looks at households and breaks it down to minute details. And so we were able to sort of back into that and look at the demographics and psychographics, values, attitudes, and lifestyles based on that data and information. So the goal, we start with a marketing goal. It's a very systematic, creating a marketing plan is a very sort of systematic, objective process. This isn't about just creating a logo in different colors. This is about really trying to figure out who the audience is and how they relate to this particular unique place. We start with the marketing goal, and in this case, we're trying to build a broad-based, sustained local support for protection and management. That's not to say that you don't have it now, but we could have more of it. So that might look like, support might look like that they're just not calling and complaining, or that they're doing the right things on the property because they understand it. It's actually a little bit harder to do this marketing plan because we're not trying to raise money. We're not trying to necessarily bring people here. So it's a little bit interesting, right? It's a little bit different piece. It's not very unlike some of the other public agencies. So we're trying to build this broad-based sustained support, but I want to know when we're doing a marketing plan, what's it really going to look like? How do we know we were successful? And so we've agreed that the results are that we have 10,000 people demonstrate their support in some way. Again, we don't need them to volunteer, we don't need them to donate, but we want them to demonstrate their support in some way. That might look like that they just go to the web page and say, I support the Albany Pine Bush Preserve. I think it's cool, I love it. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe they donate to the Friends group, maybe they participate more in programs, maybe they volunteer. 10,000 people may sound like a lot, but it's not. It's 5%, so the 10-mile radius around the preserve is about 200,000 households, about 500,000 people. So 10,000 people is 5% of the households, or 10,000 households is 5% of the households in a 10-mile radius. Did I get that wrong? Oh. So given that this is a globally rare, nationally significant place, 5% of the households, and what we know about the population, 5% of the households sort of taking some action on your behalf does not seem unreasonable. Okay, and we're getting back into that. So what are we marketing? We're marketing what you just talked about, this really unbelievably great place. The largest, highest quality, 3,200 acres, one of 600 national natural landmarks, a discovery center that is literally one of its kind, and a unique public benefit corporation. Staff, are you proud of me for not carrying on in front of the commission? Usually when I do this presentation, I'm ranting and raving about how unique this place is, but I'm trying to be more grown up. This is where I usually start yelling and screaming. Don't you know how wonderful this place is? So this place is really globally rare, nationally significant, and locally distinct. You all actually just take it for granted. It's a really cool place, and that's in fact what we're marketing. So here's the sort of process we use to get to them. You've got 4 specific target markets. I'm going to explain them, and once you really understand the audience, then you can create the strategies to reach them. So marketing, as I said, is getting other people to know about you, but marketing is not, I don't use that word in a sort of commercial advertisement kind of way. Marketing is really understanding your audience so that you can resonate with them and be relevant. That's what it is. It's not about just persuading people or influencing or pushing advertisements on them. Marketing is really understanding at the core who your audience is or who your customers are. And so we start by, how do we do that? So we started with this 10-mile radius. The 10-mile radius was very deliberate. We had lots of conversation around it. For purposes of this project is if the people around you, adjacent to, pass by, live here, work here, sort of don't support you, like why would other people out there, right? So let's start with kind of a core group. The other piece is the marketing strategies or outreach strategies that we're going to use aren't going to know that there's this little 10-mile radius. It's going to overlap, but let's at least sort of say who are the people that live, work, and play in this area, and let's try to understand them, and then we're going to go through a sort of segmenting process to get to who should we really focus on, okay? So what we know about this area by looking at just basic demographics and using the tapestry segmentation is there's about 200,000 households, 34,000 businesses. I think this is interesting. Of the 350,000 employees in this 10-mile radius, 57% of them live and work within 10 miles. So they're staying sort of close to this area. Less than 35% of the households have children. I put that out because we sort of focus a lot on kids. That's a little bit skewed because, as you know, there's a lot of senior areas right next to the preserve, so I think that skews it a little bit. What we know from, and there's all kinds of information, I'm giving you a high-level overview. What we know from the demographics is that this is largely a highly educated, mostly affluent area. Long-time residents, people tend to live here, stay here, retire here, raise their kids here. There's a younger, little less affluent group, mostly because of their age, but also sort of aspiring professionals, and they're a little bit more, have a little bit more urban style. So that's kind of a general sense of the area. Then we go a little bit more deep with then primary research, talking to people, interviews, focus groups, that kind of thing. Most significantly though, relative to thinking about who this audience is people in general, I'm going to break that down a little bit, but people are aware of you. They're aware of the Albany Pine Bush Preserve, but there's varying understanding of what it is, how big it is, or where it is. So when I talk with people, do you know the Albany Pine Bush? Oh yeah, well, you know, I've grown up with it, of course I knew it. I mean, everything from the people who I wanted to have my nails manicured. I mean, I talked to, like, wherever I was, I talked with people about this. If they grew up here, if they've lived here for 10 or more years, they know about it. When I've asked, like, well, how big do you think it is? You know, everything from, well, like 10 acres to 10,000 acres, or, you know, there's like 5 miles of trails, or there's 300 miles of trails, or, oh yeah, that's that place, that's a dump, or, oh yeah, that's that place with the butterfly. You know, really different, but they're aware of you. So your task is to turn that awareness into some sort of connection, okay? Even if we don't talk about action, some sort of connection. I'll just go through this quickly, but when we do marketing projects like this, the place we start by sort of saying, well, of those 200,000 households, we could do this broad approach. You know, we could put articles in the newspaper, we could have stuff on radio, which is sort of what you've done, right? This sort of generic approach, let us tell you about who we are, okay? if you have limited resources and you're trying to expend those resources in a really focused way, you want to pick a portion of that audience that is most likely to take action on your behalf, target markets. When I teach marketing to my students, you'll excuse me, but I always say if Pepsi-Cola company has a target market, so do you. So that's all it is. It's understanding a segment of the audience so that we can best create strategies that most fit that segment of the audience. So we start by saying, well, how do people relate to this particular area? They relate to it because it's the place where they recreate. They might relate to it because it's purpose for science or education, open space, they're the neighbors. Some people are just passerby. You know, they see the signs. They're passersby. Moms relate to it because this is where they come for their play dates. The government relates to it maybe because it's a regional asset. And there's always a bunch of people that just don't care and don't relate to it. So we sort of start there. Having then taken all of the interview information, all of the demographic information, all of the psychographic information, and thinking about 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 different ways you can sort of slice the pie in a way that's going to be most useful. What we did was then we came up with categories of people, and we gave them names, just like the politicians years ago gave names to soccer moms, right? We gave them names to sort of help us say, oh, this is the group we're going to focus on. So we divided it into 4 target markets. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the target markets, only because then those markets help us to, the more we understand the markets, then the better we can define what kinds of strategies we can use to reach them, okay? So at some point, marketing isn't a matter of sitting around a table like brainstorming ideas, because once you know your market, then there's a right answer, sort of. Like what would the audience want us to do and how would we reach them? So we broke it into sort of 4 audiences, 4 purposes of our goal. Remember our goal, to get a broad-based constituency. So there's this huge group, and I don't know, I say that, but I don't know, I can't give you percentages unless we did a large statistically significant survey. So I can partly, I'm guessing on this, that it's a large group. But we know that there's a group of what I'm calling neutral awares. They're neutral. They are aware of you, but they're neutral. And unless you did something really bad to them, right, closed one of their trails, started a fire right on top of their house, they're sort of neutral. They're not going to, you know, they'll come out of the woodwork if you do something that makes them mad, and they kind of know it's here. Oh yeah, the Albany Pine Bush, we think it's cool, right? They're neutral. There's a large audience. Most of the people, if I can extrapolate from the research we did, most of the people that grew up here or that have been here for 10 or more years know about you in one way or another. We've had lots of good press, that sort of thing, okay? They see the signs, they know about you. Let's sort of move these people a little bit further. Let's sort of capture that audience. Let's let them know they're a constituent, and let's let us know they're a constituent. And so I'm going to sort of describe these people a little bit more. They're your neighbors, and I don't mean just your adjacent neighbors, but within that 10 miles, and they're the passerbys. Then we have this other group that's a little bit more, I'll say refined, but deliberate. I'm going to call them the knowledgeable interesteds. Okay, some of you sitting in the audience would fit that group, besides staff. There's a group of highly educated, affluent, skews a little bit older folks in this area who not only know about the preserve, but are really interested in the science of the preserve. Either, you know, if you look at where the employment is in this area, as you all know, it's in environment, health, technology, right? So people have this background. They know that this place is somehow really significant and really scientifically of value. Tony, it's like the TNC stuff, you know, it's people know that your places are really special. I mean, it's a little bit more informed audience. And I probed with representatives of what I'm calling this group, and there's no place that they really connect to in the Albany region sort of to fill that intellectual curiosity that they still have. They're intellectually, physically, outdoor active, And there's no place, maybe like the universities, that sort of stuff. This could be the place that they connect with. They get that what you're doing here relates to climate change, relates to, natural heritage. They understand that, they're really interested in it. So there's an audience here that we could really tap. They also, Albany seems to me to have a pretty strong pride in your cultural heritage, in your historic preservation. And this is sort of the other side of that, positioned relative to that, right? People see this as your natural heritage. So we want to talk about that group a little bit more. We couldn't ignore the future supporters. Talking about, excuse me, in this case, middle schoolers. So this is your constituency that's going to be your constituency in the next 10 or 20 years if people, continue to live and stay in this area. So we want to focus on middle schoolers a little bit, tie it into the science, technology, engineering, and math curriculum. The message is these students in Albany, in the Albany region, have something that almost nobody else in the world has in their backyard. That's kind of cool. So we can sort of build into that. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we can't ignore the group of influencers, people who don't necessarily have to even come to this place, but the people who are interested in economic development, heritage tourism, the growth, development, prosperity of the Albany capital region. This is a very important regional asset to them, and we want to be sure that we really connect and engage with them. Does that make sense so far? Any questions? Okay. I'll just go through this a little bit quickly just to give you a sense, feel for it. It's in the report. Staff's doing a lot more work to build this out a little bit, putting names and faces to these groups. So your neutral awares. They're aware of, they sort of know the preserve. I said they grew up here, they're long-term residents, they know about the preserve, they know about the Carter Blue, they're likely to know about the ticks, a lot about ticks. They might know about, it's like that sort of cognitive dissonance. Isn't that a preserve? But it's a dump too, right? Like, you don't get it. They sort of know it's important, but they probably can't say it. They can't define the boundaries. I asked almost everybody I talked to, I asked, could you tell me where the boundaries were? And they said no. Which I asked because I can't tell you where the boundaries are either. If you drive around, it's really hard to tell. So it's kind of hard to, from a, I keep thinking of the Nature Conservancy, and it's like hard to say it's this place, right, with this, because it's diffuse a little bit. And major roads go through it, so it's a little bit harder to define. They see the signs, they drive by, they walk their dogs. They're connected to a place, but they don't identify with it specifically, and we don't identify them. So our task for these people is going to be to just get them to identify that they know what it is and that they appreciate that it's here. If we create awareness and build some more knowledge, that's great. But we have this. So this is where I was saying we didn't have a constituency, but I changed my mind. We kind of have this built-in constituency. We just have to let them know they're the constituency, right? So these are the people that live and work here. You're not going to get those people, and staff, this is hard for staff to sort of understand. You don't have to get those people to be really scientifically knowledgeable about everything here. You don't. When they're ready, they'll get there. And you don't actually have to get them to do anything. It's very, very much, right? You don't have to get them to donate or volunteer. You don't have to move them to be totally as passionate and as engaged as you are. We just want to connect with them. Okay? That's your 10,000 people right there. Knowledgeable, interested. We do want to connect with them a little bit more deeply. They know and understand the significance of the preserve. They're interested in nature, ecology, science, technology. They're intellectually and physically active. They're your NPR listener. They do read the newspapers. They have some pride in this place. They're civically engaged. They tend to travel a little bit more. They are pretty active. They're gonna go to lectures, that kind of thing. This group, the sense that I got, there's an opportunity for the Discovery Center and for the Albany Pine Bush Preserve to be the place for people who are interested, for adults that are interested in science, ecology, conservation, because it's globally rare, nationally significant, and locally unique. I mean, if you're interested in this stuff and you're going to connect, why would you go anywhere else? This is like the coolest place in the whole region, right? So we want to make this their place. That, as staff knows, I use the example, I'm from Denver, so, well, I'm actually from New Jersey, which I am more proud to tell you when I'm in New York, East Coast, but I live in Denver now. But in Denver, we have the Museum of Nature and Science, and if you are this kind of person, you are just a member of the museum. Whether you go there, whether you take advantage, but it's like, you affiliate with it. It resonates with you, you pay attention to it, like you'll probably talk about it, you look at what's going on there all the time. That's what you can be for these people. They're hungry for it. They told me they want to be members, they would pay to be members, like we didn't even ask them, right? They would pay to be members, they would pay to get like special, first shots on moonlight hikes or special lectures or that sort of thing. So you have a constituency there, let's connect with them. The future supporters are your middle schoolers. It's hard. Some of you maybe have middle schoolers or had middle schoolers. We had a very hard time trying to define these kids. That these are the kids that are going to be, they are teenagers. They're pre-teeners first and foremost, but they're going to be pre-teeners that are a little bit more interested in science and have that proclivity anyway. Not that we're going to exclude. Remember, target marketing is not exclusive. We're not saying we're never going to deal with any other teenager or pre-teenager unless they're interested in science. Of course not. Of course not. But we want to be sure that we can really connect with these kids. Not just because they come here for one day and have a great time and don't have to sit behind a desk. But those kids then are going to be really curious and really interested in what's next. These are the kids that are going to write reports on the Albany Pine Bush Preserve, not just in 7th grade, but in 9th grade, and then they're going to do a history project on it in 10th grade, and then they're going to do an ecology project on 11th grade, and then they're going to want to do stewardship work in 12th grade, right? So how do we stay connected with these kids and can really make an impression on them and of course on their parents? They're probably likely also to have parents who are involved in science, engineering, technology, healthcare, right? So there's an opportunity here to really connect with these kids at this age when they're most curious, they're sort of thinking for themselves and they're really impressionable. Maybe beginning to think for themselves a little bit too much. And then the influencers are the place builders that talk about the Albany Capital Region, their economic development, excuse me, heritage tourism. To them, the national natural landmark designation is important. This is your competitive advantage as we're attracting industry here, as we're attracting conventions here, that this really makes the region special. There's an opportunity again for us to really highlight that and to really build that. I talked to some folks that said, yeah, we would bring visiting dignitaries there, or visiting corporate people, here. So we can really make this place part of that. And this strategy is going to be more of just a little bit more what Chris has been doing and perhaps some of the commission members have been doing in being on other boards and other committees. So those are the 4 target markets. Do you get a sense of who they are a little bit? Can you think of people that you know that might fit in each of those categories? That's the best way to do it. Like, oh yeah, that's like Susie or Joe. Okay, so once we do that, then we can say, so, okay, that's fine, Shelley, we know them, you gave us the demographics, we can sort of talk about what they look like. Now what do we do with this? So now what we do is, what are the strategies to reach the target audiences towards our goal to build this broad-based constituency? 4 tiers. Go broad, go deep, go long, be integral. These are sort of ideas that sort of fit towards the goal. They will be refined as we go on. In the plan, there's detailed work plans that I'm not going to walk through, but sort of if we were going to implement it, here's how we would implement it. So the Go Broad strategy is basically focused on this one day, really intense, sort of get 10,000 people to go to the website or click on a text message or tweet, however we do that, and say, you know, I know the Albany Pine Bush Preserve, I care about it, I support it, whatever the right language is, right? That's those neutral awares. They know you, we don't need to engage them sort of long term. We can't do this as sort of an incremental, let's just get information out there, let's just get them as they come in the door to go to the website and do that, because they're neutral, right? They're really busy, they're neutral, they're not going to pay attention to you. They know you're here. We want to just capture that for like a 5-minute piece in any one day, right? We want it to go viral. Chris, I really want you to do this because I'm so competitive and I want to see if we can get 20,000 now. So that's the concept. And you build up to it. Maybe it's on National Landmark Anniversary Day. You get all the mayors to declare that it's the Albany Pine Bush Day. You get all the kids to wear Carter blue buttons. You get them to do posters. You know, it all adds up to one day. Everybody stops at like 12:10 in the afternoon and tweets and says, you know, I love the Albany Pine Bush Preserve. Something like that. And all of a sudden you got 10,000 people that love you. Tom, don't you love it? What? You're saying, Shelley, you started out being a little bit calmed down and professional, and you're just you're getting carried away. That's our Go Broad strategy. They're there. They're not going to do a whole bunch more. They may or may not participate. I mean, you'll have some residual ones that'll come in. They'll try to learn more about it, but we just want to connect with them. The Go Deep is a more specific self-selected group. You know, again, these aren't necessarily the right words or terms, but you know, some sort of like conservation science club member. We do want to give them some sort of special recognition, like a card-carrying membership thing, right? They want to identify, this is a little bit elite, sort of snobby group, right? Like who just said that? Like we know what's really going on here, right? Like we have some inside info. They want to identify as part of the club associated with this. They want the inside information. They're gonna read maybe that whole report. You know, they really they really care about that. They want targeted substantive programs, events, activities. They want to feel special. So this place has to be sort of a little bit more adult friendly. So we have to think about how we put up a little bit more substantive pieces, how we share that information. Maybe there's something on the website that's for Conservation Club members that, you know, they're gonna read the little bit more detail. They want a little bit higher level information. The Go Long strategy is we're going to tie a little bit closer to the STEM curriculum. We also have to give these information for these kids that they can tap into after they come visit or after they learn about it in the classroom. So obviously it's got to be technology based, whether it's an app where they, you know, whether it's games where they have to find all 1,500 species, or the information that they could use for class projects, but we have to keep them connected. You know, we have to create a game. You know, didn't you like that idea about creating the game where like kids can actually manage the preserve online? You know, like if they have too much fire, they ruin it, but if they don't have enough fire, you like really teach them to do stewardship online. You make it competitive, give them stuff that they're going to really connect with. And those technology interfaces are really important. So we want to have those kids be able to continue to learn about the Albany Pine Bush Preserve outside of the one day. And they're going to be self-starters. They're going to use that information and learn. And then the Be Integral strategy is a public relations, media relations, direct contact strategy. It's really about the strategic partnerships. There's about 20 commissions, committees, economic development groups in the Albany area. We want to be strategically placed with all of them. This is maybe a role for the commission. We also maybe want to think a little bit about having one or two of our meeting rooms be a little bit, what should I say, classier adult space, like sort of more executive level space, so that we can bring in visiting dignitaries or CEOs. And of course the press packet that puts Albany on the global map. The plan then breaks this out into your strategies and your objectives and how to reach those people, and then we have an action plan for each of the strategies that the staff's going to continue to work on. The implications are several. We're going to talk about the implications to the commission as well, but a couple of specific ones is enhancing the Discovery Center to be more of interest to adult learners. That's a sort of space, decision, priority, balancing option. Everyone markets, we're working with staff, that this is not just for Wendy as communications person, but that everybody has sort of a role in this. It's an organization-wide approach. It will help as the staff is looking at a whole variety of priorities. One thing about this staff is they are never short of good ideas and things that they want to do. There's always more to do than they have the time and perhaps the resources to do. So this is one of the filters to say, will it help engage our audiences towards goals? And then it has implications obviously for investment, obviously technology, new exhibits, maybe the building, and what sort of staff do we bring to the table. So that's the audience development plan. Its purpose is to continue to brand this Albany Pine Bush Preserve Commission as globally rare, nationally significant, and locally distinct. Everything, staff is going to know that every single decision they make, every single conversation they have, does this support the brand? Does, I keep saying, be the brand. And be the brand means it can't be just generic. You have to exude your rareness, your specialness, your distinction, your significance. It can't look like everything else. So that's the conclusion, and I would turn it to the commission to say, does that make sense? What are the implications for you in terms of branding and messaging, and how might you be involved in at least the influencer strategy or anything else? So thank you for paying attention. I appreciate it. I'd be glad to answer questions or discussion.
So we have a committee that worked on this project with staff, a subgroup of the staff. I mentioned Harvey, Steve, Don, and John. We worked through a lot of this stuff with Shelley. Is there anything you want to add? Not to put you on the spot.
I told, oh sorry, go ahead.
You got it.
I told Shelley beforehand, I initially was one of the skeptics of the process, or skeptical. I wouldn't say skeptic, that's too
It's a scientific mind.
Maybe. And I really think it's something that I think the process, from my position, from what I observed, and again, I wasn't privy to all the meetings with all the people, but it seemed to be a very valuable thing for us at this time. It seemed to me to kind of map a position going forward and influence what we do in a lot of different ways. And so I really appreciate the efforts that went in, and I know the staff are involved, intimately involved with this, and I know that was probably difficult. But I think it was it seems to me to be a very useful document.
So I can tell you where we are now. You can ask questions as well. So Shelley gave we have these 4 target market segments with examples of exercises of how to reach them. They're complicated, and they're going to take resources to do that. So that's why Shelley keeps saying, I really want you to do this. What the 10,000 person day looks like, we don't know yet. So we're working through that as a staff to figure that out. And what I was going to say also is Shelley was here yesterday and also today working with the staff in 2 basically workshop settings. So yesterday we tried to figure out what are those 4 target market segments, what do they look like? We all know people that we think fit those target market segments. So what do they look like? So it helped to understand that. And today we're going to go through using the audience development plan as basically a filter for projects that we work on now, things that we'd like to work on. Does it really fit? If it doesn't fit, should we do it? If we do that, what does it compromise? So using that whole mindset and starting to get to think, with a brand, which actually made me think about the newspaper today. This is off topic, but the front page of the Times-Union focused on something global, Cuba, national, that New York State is the first state to ban fracking in the U.S., and local, the casino. But this is more important, right? We are globally rare, nationally significant, and locally distinct. So that's the brand that we have to keep in our head. So, people have any questions for Tony?
I think one of the interesting things, and I've been here about 15 years now. I've obviously been in this building quite a while and worked with you guys. I love living here. I think one of the opportunities, but at the same time challenges, is within an hour of where I live or here, you have the Catskills, the Berkshires, and the Adirondacks, which is a building constituency, but also is a... I just share that because I think about that. Man, I live in a great place. Where am I going to go this weekend?
And I will say, I left out some pieces, but that is exactly what everybody said when I asked them, like, tell me about what you like about this place. Everybody said it, answered exactly like you did. I get to go here, here, and here. And then there's sort of no community here. It was a hard project because there's no sort of there, there's no real sense of community for a whole variety of reasons. So it was really hard to sort of say, we couldn't say, well, we'll just go to this neighborhood, or we'll work in this area. But it was really weird. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah.
I guess my question was going to be, what is the next step from here? And I think you kind of answered that a little bit as to where you're going with, this is step one.
Yeah.
Where will step two take us? And then, it sounds like step two is taking these ideas, brainstorming them into kind of manageable tasks.
Right.
And then step three, I'm going to guess, is implementation.
Yeah. So this is a 3 to 5 year plan looking ahead. So take for example, the first one for the neutrally awares, if that's the biggest, assuming the biggest target market. If we are going to embark on a campaign, that's not what we do. We don't do that. So we need external help. So that's a consultant. So what do we need in the first place? We probably should have a consultant help us plan that out. How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? What kind of staff time is it going to take? Do we have the expertise internally? It's that kind of planning, from the ground up to figure out where we got to go. And keep in mind, we have a management plan that we have to implement too. So we've got to make sure that we're doing it all correctly, but it's being more, using a term Shelley uses a lot, is being very deliberate and systematic in your approach and how we do things.
Actually, I'm kind of excited to be able to incorporate this into the 2015.
Yeah, vision strategy, the audience development plan.
But Chris, you might talk about how Wendy's already used it, like how it's already helped her, and sort of thinking about ads and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, as far as, from the communication standpoint, even our newsletter, if you look at our newsletter, the most recent one that went out, and we also sent out a quick holiday newsletter, people get that too. Wendy's focused very specifically on thinking about, and she runs it, she works with both Jeff and me to think about, does this make sense? Because what we always do as an internally focused agency, organization like most are, we always want to say, this is what we're doing, we're great. Aren't we great? Look how impressive this is. Which, yeah, it's true, but how does that resonate with our constituency, the people that are getting our newsletter? So thinking about what's in it for them. Maybe something in it for them is they think protecting land in this semi-urban environment is the greatest thing. So how do we make that, how do we communicate? What are those ways we communicate and resonate with the people we're trying to reach? She and I have also talked about the advertisements. There's an advertisement that runs in the TU. For those of you that read the print paper, I don't know if you've seen it. It's a 3.5 block, and it's a little girl with binoculars, and it says, the newest natural landmark, or come visit. So the question is, who does that hit of those 4 target market segments? Who reads the newspaper? Of those 4, probably just the influencers. Maybe some of the neutral awares. I mean, regularly. So is that the best way to reach? I don't know. So it's a way of starting to think about things, which is difficult. But, you know, it's moving in the right direction for continue to be as good as we can.
Chris, I liked your comment about using this as the filter for everything you do here.
Yeah.
We talked when Shelley came in to present your initial proposal. We talked about how if this is going to work, if this is worthwhile, it has to be disruptive. It has to get people out of the rut that they're in.
Right.
Get this place out of the rut, albeit a great rut.
Right.
Get it out of that rut and advance it. And if this isn't part of everyday life here, and this isn't the filter, it will not be disruptive, and we won't go to the next step. So, you know, I like what you're saying about using this to define everything you do here.
Yeah, so basically what we did is for the workshop today with the staff, from 1 to 3, every department was asked to come up with 2 questions. And we're going to randomly pick questions, break us up into groups, and take those questions and analyze it through the audience development plan. You know, in the back of the audience development plan, there's basically these criteria. And using those, what's the end result? And you know, it's not going to be easy. Like I said, I even struggle with some of it. I think I have answers for some things and not others. But it may end up being that we have to add a little more criteria, definitive criteria to the plan. Maybe not. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Shelley. Okay. We're a little ahead of schedule. We'll go into the executive session.
I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session.
And for the record, we're in executive session, we're talking about real property. So if we can ask people not members of the board to leave us just for a few minutes. And if anybody wants to take a quick break, do that. We'll start in 2 minutes.